Hey, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and today it is July 25, 2023, and we are going to be talking once again about professional wrestling right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I hope you appreciate the new allure that I have. Probably won't stick around for long, not gonna lie. Can't wait for it to grow back. Anyway, if you're watching this though, and regardless of my baby face or not, leave a like on the video if you don't mind, and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time you're here. There's a lot of content happening on the channel these days, and notwithstanding the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper, like what we're doing right here, which is recorded every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, by the way, on the YouTube channel. If you want to join and jump in and have a good time with us, there's a lot of stuff that goes on stream that doesn't make it to the podcast itself. So, if you want to come hang around, that'd be fun. But yeah, notwithstanding all of that, there's a lot of stuff that's going on the channel these days. I do my typical AEW, Dynamite, and Collision reviews on Thursdays and Sundays respectively, but right now we're in the midst of the G1 Climax 33, and since it is G1 season, well, I am doing daily recaps of every G1 show as we go along, and that, of course, is fantastic, and that's a good way for you to jump in. So, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast as well, because that's also available. Everything I do is also available in audio format as well. Well, if you do that, then you'll get access to everything. You can also have access to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord by joining. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you. Otherwise, you got a pretty good, fun, busy evening tonight. We're going to be reviewing Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 2023. We're going to be chit-chatting a bit of news coming out of AEW regarding Orange Cassidy and his new position in the company, some AEW and WWE signings, news that's been popping around, little update on the G1 Climax, nothing too big because I really want you to listen to the daily recaps, but we'll wrap everything up, see how things are going. But yeah, that's where we are right now. Thank you very much for being here. Let's get right to it with the weekly wrestling inspection. All right, so let's get to it. Start right ahead with the big one, the big thing. Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 2023. It's a pay-per-view that aired this past weekend, this past Friday, July 21st, from the Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton, New Jersey. I will lead this off by saying that this was an excellent professional wrestling show. As far as the business of the show went, I think that I should have this pulled up. Why don't I have this pulled up? If you give me a second, I will. But as far as the business of the pay-per-view, there's before we start to talk about ticket sales, because that's the thing that I'm pulling up right now. Tony Khan usually is a lot more when it comes to his pay-per-view buys. He's a little more forthcoming with early estimates and stuff like that, and he was quizzed in that area during the post-show press media thing that they had, and there we go, right over here. So but he was a little evasive. He wasn't. He didn't come in as strong as he usually does. Doesn't give us the approximation. So my guess would be that the buys for this pay-per-view were not good, or not anything to jump up on a table and scream at the top of your lungs kind of thing. I feel like Tony decided to skip that information, probably because it would be an admittal that the build to this pay-per-view stunk. And I think that's the only way we can go about talking about it, right? That's the only thing we can mention is that Tony absolutely did a poor job putting this pay-per-view together and getting people excited for it. Like, the whole thing came together 2 days before the show, before the day of the show, on the Wednesday. That's where everything came together. It's a technique, and I do know, we talk about purchasing pay-per-views here on the show on multiple times. This is not a new topic for anyone, and I know Tony is also a proponent of the late buys, where he believes a lot that a lot of people purchase pay-per-views late at the last minute, so on and so forth. And I believe that we've talked about it before. It's a very different system that we have in place now for pay-per-views than we did back in the 90s or 80s, where, cable companies and all that and the hookups and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes, you just couldn't wait till the very last minute to order. Now you can. So he's, and I'm sure he has the data to back it up, because he is after all a numbers guy. So I'm sure he has the data to back up what he's selling here. But at some point, the counter argument that I always pull out here is that at the very least, you always have to have your main event set. You have to have a main event that will get people excited for, right? Because that's the one thing that will stick in a person's brain, as opposed to anything else on the card. They'll go, oh, the main event is this. And that's the one that's going to get people to go, okay, I will reserve some time for this pay-per-view, or at the very least, we'll have it in the back of their heads. We'll just be, at the very least, it'll pop into their minds whenever they hear the name of the pay-per-view. Oh yeah, that's MJF versus CM Punk, right? That's the one. Oh, okay. We didn't even have the benefit of that. Now I understand, once again, Tony Khan was a little victim to the injury bug, with Mark Briscoe, unfortunately, hitting the bricks, injured for a while. And that's the stuff that happens, and he had to think on his feet. But I mean, there's a whole entire card under that as well that you could have been booking in the meantime. Look, I think the overall consensus is it wasn't a great build, but it was a great pay-per-view. And I think that critically, it's been lauded just about everywhere. However, business-wise, could have probably, because ultimately that's what the build is for. It's to generate hype, generate interest, and ultimately to convert this interest into buys. And I think that if it had been better promoted, it probably would have done better, and Tony Khan would have sat down at the press conference, the media thing at the end of Ring of Honor, and was said, yeah, great news, lots of the prelim numbers that we have for the buys are really great. It's about around this, whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, but now nothing. So, we can only assume that it's not a good number. It's not something that they'll want to crow about. And I think that they only have themselves to blame when it comes to that promotion, to the promotion of that. As for the sales, the tickets, well, 2,179 distributed out of a 3,018 setup, according to WrestleTix. That's not bad. I don't think the Cure Insurance Arena is that big. How big is it? Let me take a look here. Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton, New Jersey. Does it have the capacity? There we go. See, 8,600. So I mean, that's not bad. I don't think that's bad at all. You get for and especially considering the build, so on and so forth. They almost maxed out their capacity, about a little over 800 tickets left. Not a disaster, but I think could have been better. I think it would have been a lot better on that front. I can. So much more could have been done to hype this pay-per-view. That was not done. What are you going to do? PG Louie, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. But look, let's break down the show. There was a lot, nonetheless, on this card. A bunch of matches and a lot of really good stuff. Let's start with the pre-show. We'll go through the pre-show pretty quickly, as I usually do. We had Josh Woods defeating Tracy Williams with a pure rules match. I liked it. I enjoyed this opener. Williams was forced to use 2 rope breaks early on because Woods' grappling game was just really, really, really good. Playing his opponent like a fiddle. So then a little later on, Williams makes a comeback, gets Woods to use 2 rope breaks himself. But Woods fights back, gets a gorilla lock that forces Williams to use his last rope break, gets him onto the floor. And as Williams is climbing back into the ring, he clasps him into a guillotine-like submission, all tied up in the ropes. There's nowhere for Tracy Williams to go. He taps. Good little opener. I enjoyed it. And we had Action Andretti and Darius Martin defeating the Workhorsemen. There'll never be enough Workhorsemen on my televised wrestling programming. I'll tell you what, this was a fine, dynamic match. I thought Andretti was a little off here, but overall, nothing wrong, nothing more to say. Just fine things. Fine wrestling things occurred. How about that? Layla Hirsch defeated Trish Adora. Always been a big fan of Trish. She's always been a prospect that I've loved. I've kept my eye on for a while. She's part of the infantry now, which I think is a good fit for her. You know, not just because she's a former vet herself. I believe she's Army. It's good to see Layla back too, right? Been battling an injury for a while, and it's good to see her back. We get some near falls and an arm bar by Hirsch for the win. After the match, Hirsch attacks Adora after the code of honor, but don't worry, Sky Blue is here to save the day. She runs Layla Hirsch off. I'm happy Hirsch is back, but I felt she looked a little rusty, which is understandable. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that's my analysis. And Trish Adora's New Japan Dojo strikes are sharp. They're meaningful. I think overall the match could have been better, but a decent effort. And AR Fox defeated Shane Taylor. AR Fox here, he plays stick and move against Taylor, using the old tried and true formula of the best way to not get hurt is to not be punched, right? But that only gets him so far because Taylor's power quickly cuts off any offense. Fox is able to string together. Fox carries Taylor on his shoulders in an impressive feat of strength, then lands a DVD and a 450 for the win. Good styles clash match. 2 guys who know how to make it work too on top of that. Great pace, well put together. What is it going to take to get more Shaler in Ring of Honor? I don't know. You're asking me? Now we move on to the main card, where Gravity defeated Commander. Here's a joke for you. What did Gravity say to Pac? I don't remember you. Thank you very much. That's the... I think I've done that joke 70,000 times since Friday. I've even done it to people who don't watch pro wrestling. I'm like, are you okay? What is a Pac? This was, full disclosure, this was the first time that I saw Gravity wrestle at all. He works as a freelance in Mexico. I never really had a chance to see him. So I was shocked and surprised when he comes out in an astronaut suit and he does like the slow, low gravity walk. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. We're going full circle on this one, are we? Sure. Okay. I thought that was really funny. And he even does the slow walk in the ring for a spot at some point. And then he takes off his orange astronaut suit, like he's wearing an orange NASA-like astronaut suit, but his gear is like inspired from Buzz Lightyear. Commander hits a tremendous shooting star press in this match. Gravity does a unique driver over the corner turnbuckle to the floor. Commander lights up the audience with one of his patented multi-springboard dives to the floor, as well as the long way rope walk moonsault. Gravity rolls him up for the win, though. Fun little lucha libre match by two talented guys. I thought that was okay. You know, nothing that particularly blew my mind, but good, solid work. When is Commander going to win a match in the TK universe? Right? I feel like all he does is lose matches, and at some point, you know, I get it. You know, he's not a top guy. But he's got to pick up some wins at some point. I don't know. Ring of Honor World TV title match came up next. Samoa Joe defeated Dalton Castle, who won a tournament, defeating the aforementioned Shane Taylor to get in the finals to get to Samoa Joe. So, look, we have Dalton Castle in the ring. We've got Ring of Honor Board of Directors member Stokely Hathaway on commentary. Samoa Joe. There's a lot of charisma in this match, folks. Hoo boy, bursting at the seams. There's some stalling from both guys to start this off, and I choose to believe that this is a tribute to Larry Zbyszko. Dalton takes it out, takes it to Joe, but you know, it only takes a moment for Joe to start getting dangerous. You know, and the next thing you know, Dalton Castle is flat on his back, eating a senton. And then Joe gets a big heat segment. And the boys here, Castle's boys, they get involved quite a bit, multiple times, keeping Dalton from getting beat up on the floor by Joe, who clearly wants to do that. But they catch him and roll him back into the ring and stuff like that. And it kind of irritates Joe. Dalton Castle gets his comeback cooking, and he drops Samoa Joe with a German suplex. Joe, retreating to the floor, goes to see Stokely Hathaway at ringside to force referee Stefan Smith to expel the boys from ringside. And while we're doing all this ringside administrative procedure, Smith is distracted because he's involved in this. And that allows Samoa Joe to low blow Dalton Castle, lock in the Kikina clutch for the win. Big power showcase for Joe. Fun little match, but you know, this is a TV finishing angle, right? The finish could have been, quite frankly, a lot more decisive. Even if there's something endearing about Stokely being coerced into making decisions out of fear for his life. Like, what does Samoa Joe have something on Stoke, or is Stoke just afraid? Which is, you know, probably the situation and makes the most sense. But yeah, there you go. That was the match. I enjoyed it. You know, still not fantastic, not a great match, but good enough. Then we had the Ring of Honor World Tag Team title 4-way match where Aussie Open defeated the Best Friends, the Kingdom, and the Lucha Bros to become the new Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. And, as you know, I am not a fan of multi-man matches for titles. So this match inherently starts off with a couple of strikes against it in my book. But I can't deny that everyone in this match worked their asses off, and the match itself filled my need for spots. That's something you can't deny here. That was fast and furious and crazy, and that's what it was. Aussie Open and the Lucha Bros exchange moves at some point in the match, super kicks, and honestly, that made me wish that this match was 2-on-2, just between these two guys. And I'm like, what a fucking missed opportunity we have here. The Kingdom were solid as usual. Best friends in the Lucha Bros, you know, they have some heat with each other. They can continue this feud on AEW TV. And I'm completely okay with them anointing Aussie Open. Because look, the finishing segment, you know, kicks in with the best friends. They land Storm Zero, but the Lucha Bros drag the ref out of the ring to prevent the count. So Penta then chair shots Trent. Then Matt Taven runs in to try and steal the win. Aussie Open then are left alone with a bloodied Trent, and they land the Coriolis to become the new champions. There you go. It's a hell of a welcome to America, right? And here you go, boys. Here's your signing bonus. and I can't say enough how happy I am that Mark Davis is back. Very scary to hear that he got injured, that he had to be pulled from action in New Japan. That they had to relinquish the IWGP tag team titles. That kind of shit is scary. Glad to see that he's back already. Hopefully that he had enough time to rest. Now he's back into it. Because look, I think it's very easy to be a Kyle Fletcher guy. I think there's a lot of Kyle Fletcher people out there. But I think Kyle Fletcher is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a Mark Davis guy. It just goes up my it just goes up my way when he's in the ring. That's the kind of stuff that I like. It's the kind of shit that I like. The Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team titles were on the line, and the Mogul Embassy defeated Leon Ruffin and 6 or 9, which is the team of Master Wato and Taguchi from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now that is a random ass pairing. If I ever did see one, when I saw that, I burst out laughing. I thought it was comical. We're flying in Wato and Taguchi. And I mean, look, good for these guys, right? Because it's G1 season right now in Japan, in New Japan. So they're like, all right, we don't have anything going on. Could you send us these? Sure. Cage does some curls with Ruffin, and Ruffin is completely cut off in this match, utterly dominated by Prince Nana's 3 Goliaths. Wato gets the hot tag and has a great sequence running roughshod on the Embassy, using his speed to land a lot of impactful moves. Then Taguchi comes in, gets a lot of funky weapon action in, and we get a really exciting sequence where everyone gets their shine. I really like this match. Ruffin flies in, takes on Leona mano a mano with a flurry of kicks and strikes. But look, the Embassy, they're just too monstrous. They're too big, especially for a little guy like Leon Ruffin. So as they throw him up into the air so high for their finisher, I don't think he's landed yet. You know, we're, 5 days removed? And we're 5 days removed. And I think Leon Ruffin is still up there. He's probably on his, on a downward trajectory, but he's still, what? Wow. Looking for a match that felt like, random Fire Pro matchmaking. This absolutely ruled. Great pace, great use of everyone's strengths, excellent baby faces, tremendous work by everyone. I love this match, I think I like this more than the 4-way tag team match before. Whereas, I know a lot of people really like the 4-way match. I was kind of like, all right, it was all right. But I thought this ruled. I thought it was a fantastic match. The Embassy is the crown jewel of this era of Ring of Honor. They are so good. They are so good. Just perfect in their role. They always come in working. They work hard. They always work, all 3 of them. The Gates, Cage. And Ruffin, if you remember, former NXT North American champion, Leon Ruffin, part of the proud lineage that now includes Dominic Mysterio. You'll remember him as being an excellent seller. back in NXT, right? That was his thing. It's like he was small and he'd give up a lot, but an excellent seller. And it's still the same here. You know, you sort of wonder sometimes, has this guy been, pigeonholed a little too much? Because I think he's pretty good. I think he's good. But you always see him in these positions where he's, selling the monster offense and making other guys look good. The Dolph Ziggler syndrome, right? It's like, oh, Dolph's an excellent seller. Let's just toss him in there. Hey, we look at this. It's Dan from Pro Wrestling Eve who's here. Well, they still have to fly him in from LA, don't they, Dan? The United States is not a tiny island, Daniel. Cut off from the rest of the world. How you doing, Dan? Nice to see you. Katsuyori Shibata successfully defended the Ring of Honor Pure title against Dan Garcia. Right up until this point, this was my match of the night. You could not have put together a match which was more my speed if you wanted to. It's the wrestler versus the sports entertainer. And Shibata in this match, he's got no time. He's got no time for hip thrusts. So he goes right into a figure four, which forces Garcia to use his first rope break. There you go. Shibata takes this to the floor and he wallops Garcia over the barricade. Garcia comes back and he plants Shibata into the post. Then he starts working the arm. Garcia gyrates, right, around the bemused Shibata. And Garcia is going so hard, I'm afraid he's going to dislocate a hip bone. I'm afraid you're going to hear something go clink. Because that's the sound hips do when they dislocate. Clunk! You're going to have to trust me on that one. And Shibata he's unamused. He doesn't think this is impressive. In fact, school is in. He sits down and he waits for Garcia to sit down and stop being a petulant child. Shibata later lands the corner kicks and the basement drop kick. Garcia goes all young lion on him and pulls out the Boston Crab. Garcia and Shibata then trade a series of suplexes while staying laced up with each other. And this is awesome chance from the crowd. We get some fighting spirit. Both guys are laying into each other, and I, of course, am into it. Garcia counters some offense, locks in the Dragon Tamer. He leans back to add more pressure, but Shibata chokes him out of the move. And Shibata gets a standing choke. Garcia tries to channel, as I like to call it, hip thrust energy. Right? He's just standing there getting choked out, and he's trying to channel hip thrust energy. But it is not happening. Too little, too late. A PK puts it away for Katsuyori Shibata. I love this match. Shibata worked this match just like as if he was the sensei, trying to get something out of Garcia, as if to challenge a headstrong pupil, right? To develop into a better version of himself. But Garcia, defiant, completely entranced by the sheen and glimmer of sports entertainment, refuses to conform, will not listen to his wise teacher, and refuses to show respect for Shibata. This was great. This was great. Great pro wrestling. Equal parts violent and beautiful. Little tinge of sports entertainment in there. Great character work by Garcia, as Garcia was pushed to re-enter a territory that he had convinced himself he had left behind. Like I said, right in my wheelhouse, and this was my highlight of the show so far to this point. Then we had the Fight Without Honor match. The Dark Order took on the Righteous, and I guess Stu Grayson is a part of the Righteous now, right? Stu Grayson, Dutch, and Vincent, well, they beat the shit out of them. This was a good plunder hardcore match. What kind of weapons did we have? We had 2x4s. We had barbed wire 2x4s. We had tacks, Lego pieces, tables. Everyone is bleeding. Silver eats a splash from Vincent from the top turnbuckle on a table, which is set up on the floor, and the table doesn't break. So Stu dives immediately after him to break the table this time. Then we get a barbed wire table on top, outside of that they bring up to the top, and Dutch gets thrown on it. And hey, John Silver here has a kick pad filled with tacks that he unloads on Vincent. And of course, the big spot of the night is Stu getting one of those really, really tall ladders, sets it up in the ring. And there's tables on the floor, and Evil Uno tips the ladder over, and Stu falls all the way through those tables. That was a crazy ass bum. The Dark Order pulls Stu back into the ring to finish him off with the win. Look, brutal, vicious, a war. It felt like a war. They acted like a war, and this was one of the only matches on the card that actually had a build. That actually had some story behind it, something to make it special. And it did feel special. It felt good. I thought this was a very good pro wrestling match. And pro wrestling, not in the purest sense of pro wrestling, but it was a match, a hardcore plunder wrestling match. And you know what? I thought its positioning juxtaposed right after the pure match, which is your pro wrestling match in and about itself. I thought that was brilliant. I think it added to this match, made it feel more special, because you get your pure wrestling match, and then you get the garbage. You get the stuff. I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. That led us to the Ring of Honor World Title match, where Claudio Castagnoli successfully retained his title against Pac. Now this all came from a late change. Like you felt that they were building Claudio versus Eddie, right? And then next thing you know, Eddie gets sent off to the G1. Then there was a late change because Mark Briscoe was forced to pull out due to a knee injury. So then when they had Pac join Blood and Guts, and Pac walked out of the Blackpool Combat Club during the Blood and Guts match, this all set up the impetus for this match right here. So, and honestly, this was a match where I was like, well, you know what? If this is our Plan C match, well, we're still doing good here. This is pretty nifty. Pac lands a sequence of offense until Claudio catches him up into a gorilla press and tosses him over the top rope through a table. Incredibly risky, by the way, but an awesome bump. Pac avoids the neutralizer. Claudio catches him off a Rana and hoists him into an overhead throw. He does not release the hold and stands up into a neutralizer and lands it, but Pac kicks out of it. And Pac really, he can't stay down. No matter how much offense Claudio is throwing at him. It's kind of vice versa too. It's on both sides of the equation here. Both guys are just throwing moves at each other, and neither is staying down. We're on the turnbuckles at some point. We're on the turnbuckles at some point. Claudio teases an avalanche Ricola bomb, but Pac blocks it and counters it with an avalanche Rana. Claudio avoids the Black Arrow, follows through with the Ricola bomb attempt, but Pac reverses it into a standing brutalizer. Now, if you thought that was pretty dope, listen to this. He wears Claudio down, and then he slumps onto his back. But then, suddenly, Claudio starts getting back up with Pac still firmly clasped to his upper back, latched on like a backpack, and Claudio climbs up the second turnbuckle with Pac still on his back, and then hits an air raid crash. Just completely inhuman stuff from Claudio. That fella, he's not like us. I'll tell you what. Bit of an unfortunate finish, though, I thought, as Yuta runs in to distract Pac, which allows Claudio to hit the Ricola Bomb for the win. And after the match, the rest of Death Triangle run in. So that's interesting. So that's, that was something that everyone was like, oh, does this mean the Pac is no longer with the Death Triangle? But no, it's fine. Apparently they're still chums. They all come in, and then the best friends come in along with Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy punches Claudio. Orange punches Claudio. Don't think don't think that's not meaningful. Look, I don't think I would have ended it like this. With the Yuta interference and all the angles at the end. It feels like, look, this was a great match, and it should have just ended like that. Backpack. See, I don't even realize I make the jokes. But it feels like a great match. And it feels like look, it feels like it was a great match that should have been given the time to breathe at the end. But, it didn't bother me to the point that I'm like, what a disappointment, rotten. No, I would have preferred, maybe it took away a little from my overall final appreciation of it, but this was fantastic. Two inhuman wrestlers who put on a match showcasing how incredible they are. I call them freaks, but I'm afraid they'll come after me. This is just absolutely fantastic stuff. I loved it. I thought it was a great world title defense. During this match, Gravity was watching the match on a television set. We cut to watch him looking at the match on a monitor. He was going like this and was like, that guy looks familiar. All right. So when I was saying, just before I interrupted my whole flow, just to plug that in, I was thinking, I was about to say, what a great main event, right? I was talking about the Ring of Honor. It was a great main event, but Warren, you caught yourself. Nope. No. That wasn't it. The main event of the evening was Athena successfully retaining her Ring of Honor Women's World title against Willow Nightingale in a absolutely bombastic, fantastic professional wrestling match that had everything that you love out of pro wrestling in there. And I don't care. Well, I do care that it was women who got the main event spot and who clearly got the match of the night on top of it. Like, I haven't heard, things can vary, from taste to taste, but I have seen so many people saying like this was the best match on a card that was already filled with insane great matches and people having high expectations for. This absolutely ruled. And Athena, despite all the criticism that Tony Khan gets regarding Ring of Honor and how it's been handled, and how he handles the pay-per-views and how the weekly show is handled, there's a lot of valid criticism, but throughout it all, if there's one thing that Ring of Honor has done spectacularly well, is rehabilitate Athena's image from being a middling babyface to an uncompromising, spiteful brawler, from like a geek to an authentic classic badass. We didn't know she had it in her until she decided to unload on Jody Threat. We didn't know she had it in her. It's crazy what happenstance can do for a pro wrestler. I mean, just look at Willow Nightingale and her 2023. Willow's a great wrestler, don't get me wrong, and so on and so forth, but she was not supposed to win the Open the strong women's title. That was earmarked for someone else. That is happenstance, but it's still hers. It belongs, she will always be the first. She will always be the one who inaugurated the title. Great year for Willow. Incredible year for Willow. What are we talking about? Can you imagine? We were thinking in the chat here, because this was a discussion that was had in the past. I really, saying that we all thought Athena was going to join the Outcasts, right? Because of natural affiliations, but kind of thankful she didn't, right? I think this worked out better for her than joining the Outcasts. Like this Ring of Honor run for her has been a godsend. This has been outstanding stuff. Hello, Evan, King of the North, member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. How are you? What's wrong? But listen, I thought this match was outstanding. Just well put together and a brilliant story that they told all throughout this match. And one that stays just open-ended enough. No, thank you. to create more opportunities here. Listen. Nightingale lifts Athena up into she does a Stormbreaker-like move onto her knees. That's pretty cool. On the floor, Willow cannonballs onto Athena against the steps. Back in the ring, Athena lands a standing moonsault, but Athena rolls through, picks her up. And then we start getting tribute spots. For former professional wrestlers by both ladies, Sumi Sakai, Sarah Del Rey, Mischief. Athena does the obliteration, and I had forgotten how cool of a finisher that is. Like a second rope. Anyway, look at I don't know. It's either between a second rope X Factor or pile driver. It's good shit. All sorts of tribute spots. Yeah, Mickie James's indie finisher. Lots of great stuff here. Athena wears her down. Hits the O-face, but Willow kicks out. Generates one of the biggest reactions of the night on that one. Willow goes for the babe with the powerbomb. It lands. But now it's Athena's turn to kick out at one. They go up top. Willow tries the gut wrench, but Athena shoves her off. O-face again. Athena then rolls through into a crossface. Willow struggle. She struggles valiantly, but can't withstand it. Athena wins. I thought it was great. A great match. And you know what? This was a pretty ballsy move. It was a bold move to pull this off. Because considering everything else that was booked on this card and the people that were going out there to tear the house down, right? It is a bold move to pull out these two ladies and say, yeah, sure, you're finishing the show. Go out and tear the house down. And they did. In fact, whatever went on at the end would have been a bold move, but look, it was these two in this position. It had a tremendous hill to climb to make it something special, something that would, that would be in the same class of everything else, but it outclassed a lot of the stuff on the card. And is it, do we consider it to be a bold move because it's two unproven main events, two unproven commodities in main event situations being put in a main event? Do we consider it a bold move because it's women? Maybe it's a combination of both. Because when you look at this, when you look at the results, you're like, why, there's nothing bold about it. These were just two talented pro wrestlers who went out and did what they do best, and they tore the house down. Would we have seen this? Yeah, two black women on top of that. Would this have been like, would this have been would we have been saying bold move if it was Claudio and Pac? Probably not. For multiple reasons. But it paid off. What a hell of a gamble. And these women worked so well together. And they went out there and they really had two missions in mind. I'm sure they had two missions in mind. To pay tribute to the women of professional wrestling that paved the way, and to tear the goddamn house down. And both were achieved in dramatic, hardworking precision by these two excellent pro wrestlers. Story of determination, a story of courage, a story of heartbreak. We love ourselves a good villain, and we love ourselves a better underdog. Like, everything worked. Wasn't anything special, wasn't anything cutesy. I'll tell you, can I pull out a quibble? I've been quibbling a lot, just a tiny quibble, if I have one tiny quibble. Athena didn't have to show her respect at the end. Athena could have just hit the bricks. I know she attacked her after the cameras went off. That's fine and all, I know. But what we saw, lifting her up, I was like, oh, kick her ass, Athena, kick her. No. Like sometimes it's okay for just people to don't like each other in professional wrestling contexts. Kayfabe, of course, or even if it's real. I have no ponies in any of these races, But just have Athena just be just a little mean at the end. Just be like, yeah, fuck you, kind of thing. Oh yeah, great man. She ate both of us. Womp. Sometimes you just want that. Sometimes you just want that little thing. But listen, this is their second match together, right? And by virtue of this match, they've elevated whatever interest that might exist in creating a trilogy, bringing us full circle to a third match, right? Because you can absolutely see a trilogy between two world-class athletes here, right? Telling a long run story where Willow has to dig deep to get a win over the woman that she is unable to put down, right? I mean, it's one of the most basic stories in pro wrestling and one of the most compelling. We get those for the dudes all the time. Why not one of those for the women? Especially these two. Because I'm already stoked for Athena Willow Nightingale 3. I'm ready for it. I'm looking forward to it. This was my match of the night. This was unquestionably my match of the night. Great card. Just a fantastic show. If you can catch bits and pieces of this scattered around, places on the internet, do yourself a favor and watch some of them. Watch the main event. Watch Claudio and Pac. Watch Shibata and Garcia. Watch whatever you can. And if you're like, Warren, maybe I should just buy the replay, go ahead and buy the replay. You will not be bored. This is a good investment in your pro wrestling enjoyment. Absolutely. There's no question about it. Just go ahead and buy the thing. Instead of trying to hunt it down, hitting the high seas, me mateys. You know what I'm talking about? Don't do that. Just go ahead and buy it, come to think of it. Be a good time for you. And then you come back and thank me. You'll say, Warren, thank you for insisting that I invest in a good time. There you go. Did you hear that Orange Cassidy is now officially an AEW agent? Not a special agent, just an agent. This came out via Fightful Select. a few days ago. In addition to his in-ring, I'm reading this off of the Figure 4 Observer, Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Wrestling Observer Online. In addition to his active in-ring schedule, Orange Cassidy reportedly has a new role backstage in AEW as well. According to a report from Fightful Select, the 39-year-old has picked up some additional work as a producer/agent for the company. Cassidy is said to have produced the recent Big Bill and Brian Cage versus Matt Sydal and Trent Beretta match on the July 7 Rampage. He also produced a recent Kingdom versus Infantry match in Ring of Honor. Good for him. Good for him. I think that's that's really good. I see nothing but positives here. And then there was a little controversy that accompanied this because of course there has to be a controversy around a guy just getting a job in the company he already works in. And by the way, I liked the Big Bill, Brian Cage, Trent and Matt Sydal match. And I actually really liked the tag team of Brian Cage and Big Bill. I thought that ruled. But anyway. But there was a bit of controversy that happened when Brian Solomon, wrestling historian, works over at Pro Wrestling Illustrated as well, wrote numerous books on the business. He said he shared on Twitter a conversation that he had with Bret the Hitman Hart. And this is what he wrote, quote, "When I recently interviewed Bret Hart for my book, he told me that he offered to agent for them, but they only wanted to bring him in as a manager, like Tully, Arn, Jake, etc." That's fair. Brian added this little tidbit here. "Imagine having the ability to have Bret Hart coach your talent and saying, no, just be a TV character." And that's interesting. And I think it's a good thing that they're getting talent in these positions that understands the modern product, and not only the modern product, the product that they're being hired to work at, to do these things such as agenting and putting matches together. I think there is tremendous value in having Orange Cassidy there. A guy who has been with the company from the get-go, a guy who is very well liked, and who definitely, as is said in the chat, has his finger on the pulse of the business and that has been feeling that pulse for a while now. And I don't see an issue with this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I often feel like people confuse coaching and agenting or producing, right? Agenting and producing are a little interchangeable, but coaching is not. And I think look, do we want Bret Hart? And I'm saying this with nothing but love in my heart. As you know, I am a Bret Hart guy. Sean sucks, Bret rules. And I'm saying this with all the love in my heart. Do we want Bret Hart in 2023 agenting matches? Now, having Bret Hart backstage, giving advice, showing, the ropes, training people, or, just giving tips, pointers. Of course, you have that resource at your fingertips. Bret fucking Hart? What are we talking about? It's like, of course. But Bret, whose prime in the business was 3 decades ago, and who might not have a real connection with the product today, might not be following it as, intently as, maybe a guy who's already in it. Is that what you want? And I would say no, right? I feel no, you don't want Bret, producing matches when his heyday, his peak was 30 years ago. He might not have the connection with the current product. And these are the names that always get thrown around, right? Hey, Pluggo, nice to see you. Yes, I'm seeing you. These are the names that always that get thrown around. And Brian threw them around in another tweet as well. Names like, why not Arn Anderson? Why isn't he agenting matches? Which he's done, to be fair. But, why not Arn? Why not Jake Roberts? Why not Taz? Why not Billy Gunn? Like, then you start rattling off all of these, old timers, guys who have, who staked a claim in the business, who have been successful. But again, do you want these people agenting matches? Do you want these people with their own sensibilities impacting a vision of AEW that maybe won't exactly connect? That's the other thing. And are these guys even interested in doing it? Now, I can understand to a degree. I can understand why maybe some wrestling commentary individuals, pundits, whatever you want to call them, free thinkers. I can understand how maybe some of them look to this and go like, well, why aren't we doing this with Tully and Arn? And why aren't we bringing back these old guys are here? And look, honestly, Jake Roberts agenting matches, what are we doing here? Like, again, God bless Jake Roberts and his complete turnaround and, not an easy life and, nothing but peace to him. And I'm pretty sure he's living the best life right now that he's had in years. But do we want Jake Roberts putting matches together? And it's like, the thing here is, I understand, again, like I said, I understand why a lot of, well, again, maybe not a lot, but I can understand why some pundits look at this and look, well, why isn't AEW using the old guys? Because AEW did come off as a promise to, have its roots into more traditional pro wrestling, right? Be a complete and different offering to the sports entertainment stuff from WWE, Mid-South Tony, let's be real. Like, it's like, I can understand why there's an expectation, but, you also have to, well, I think you have to consider that this doesn't make much sense, hang on, let me say that again. I think it is a bizarre criticism to lay down when you have a guy who is still in his prime, who is absolutely plugged in and connected to the business, and who has had great success in the business as well. I think it's weird to criticize that move and instead say, But the other thing that's really wild about this is when you slap the time, in regards to the Bret Hart thing, when you start thinking about it and you slap the timeline around, Bret offered them to do this in 2019. And yeah, I know there's been spin by a certain wrestling outfit that said this, Orange Cassidy got the job Bret Hart wanted. Well, Bret Hart offered this job in 2019. Let's pump the brakes because there have been other agents that came in to take the job Bret Hart wants. Like, it is such a weird, it's a weird position to take when you slap the timeline together and you think about how things are. Bret Hart asked this when he was hanging around the company at its start, and they politely turned him down and said, unless there's been discussions behind the, between AEW officials and Bret that we're not aware of. As far as we know, that's the last time that Bret and AEW spoke with each other, really. So how does this become the job Bret wanted? Come on, let's be real here. Orange Cassidy has been an unbridled Bret Hart agenting a Jimmy Havoc match. That would have been, yeah. Look, Orange Cassidy has been an unbridled hit in AEW. Okay, let me tell you, there's always talk about. We got to take a minute here because there's more than enough talk about the things that don't work in AEW, the failures, at least the perceived failures that happen in AEW, and like Blood and Guts was a failure and so on, But what about Orange Cassidy? Orange Cassidy, we never talk about how much of an absolute success he has been it's been for his career, but for AEW as well. He comes in, he's an irony wrestler, right? Irony wrestler comes in with the gimmick, very much irony. Some people call them the meme wrestlers. He was one of those. Gets himself over, despite it all, and despite his character, and he works his ass off in the meantime, and has become for AEW a sustained star for the company, despite being saddled in the mid card. This guy is a star, a solid, dynamic performer who gets it. He gets, now that he's on television, how to balance the goofball quality of his character with his work, with putting on good to great wrestling matches. And why wouldn't you trust a guy like that putting matches together? Why wouldn't you? He's a merch pusher, a fan favorite. Little kids, they dress up like him. We all act like Orange Cassidy is in his 20s, but I saw it in the chat. He's 39. People are like, he's 39? Yeah, he's 39. Orange Cassidy is a hit. People don't want to focus on the successes. And he's a success, and he should get more success in the company. It's a testament to what he's capable of doing. This is to me, this is good news, as opposed to, bringing in, here's the other, because we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago, as opposed to bringing in more agents from WWE. Again, no disrespect to Pat Buck or Sanjay Dutt, but these guys come in and they're a little fed-brained in the way that they approach their matches. That's normal. They've been doing it a certain way. And Jimmy Jacobs is in there too. He's had the WWE's got his hooks in him as well at some point. So instead of doing outside hires, bringing in these guys who have completely different visions, you bring forth a guy, you do an inside promotion for a guy who gets the company, who's been there from the start, and who understands how the company operates, understands what the company wants, and you push that guy forward, you give him a more spot. That makes a lot of sense to me. It makes tremendous amounts of sense. I don't know why people are mad at this, but then again, look, it's AEW, the company that has so much scrutiny on it. People will find anything to point at as a failure, even something that is inherently positive. They'll find something and say, "Oh no, this is a failure," like Blood and Guts. Because I was stunned this week. I'm going off on a sidebar here, but I was stunned this week that. Or last week, I should say, that there was discourse over how the Elite BCC feud was running on fumes, that it was done, that it was boring, that people were sick of it, right? People were sick of it. Who was telling? A couple of people, but people were sick of it. It was a success, and it is by observable metrics, the Elite Blackpool Combat Club, don't know why I forgot the last part, feud has been a success. It was systematically the best thing in AEW for months. Consistent, fun, they were mixing it up systematically. Ticket sales got moving once Anarchy in the Arena was announced for Double or Nothing. Then all of a sudden, you get a peak. And let's talk about specifically Blood and Guts, right? This Blood and Guts match, that despite the fact that wasn't it number one on cable that night or something to that effect. Like it scored really high, tremendous ratings. We still have people going, well, it didn't work as, it didn't work as well last year as it did last year, despite the fact that we could absolutely see a trend, an uptrend in ratings and viewership over the past few weeks. But no, it didn't work out. How about ticket sales then, if you want to talk about? Listen, the TD Garden, before the match was announced, the TD Garden before the match was announced for the show they had about 4,500 tickets distributed. Okay, they announced the match on June 29, June 30th. It moves 1,000 tickets. One day, one match added. Suddenly 1,000 tickets move. On July 19, you know what happens? You know what happens on July 19? They open up about 1,000 more seats. They finish with 8,956 tickets distributed, according to WrestleTix. This is all data from WrestleTix, by the way. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. The Observer newsletter last week reported 9,200 total, 8,300 paid. So we're in the same vicinity. This was a success. This is clearly agendas, right? This is clear. Anyone who's saying, the elite BCC stuff, it sucked or whatever, these are agendas. Or they're not able to parse their own feelings from what is going on right before your eyes, like what is observable, what is quantifiable. And I try to think, and I talked about this on the Dynamite review last week a little bit, because I try to think when it comes to criticism. Look, I've grown over the time I've been doing this. I haven't been perfect. But I think about it, and I think about it a lot. I always start with the precept that true criticism always comes from a place of love. You'll never criticize something that you do not love. You'll either not care or you'll just get angry and you'll hit the bricks and you'll never, it's just, but something you love generates criticism. That's inevitable. And I think when it comes to how I approach criticism, I've tried to make it clear when I'm making things about me, and yet try to remain fair when the observable is working against my own tastes. I try. I'm sure I'm not always perfect because I'm human and I'm passionate about pro wrestling and I'm passionate about certain elements about it, but I do my best. The Acclaimed is a good example of that. The Acclaimed is something that I systematically say, I don't think it's good. It's not for me. But I cannot refrain from, I cannot in good faith tell you, my audience, my A+ audience, I cannot in good faith tell you that it's not working because it is. And I understand why it's working. And I get why it's working. It's just it doesn't work for me. And I think that's okay. I think it's an important distinction to make. I can raise red flags. Like I often wonder, how the Bloodline story is going to affect North American pro wrestling moving forward. Because it's doing huge business. How will that model be? How will that seep into other promotions? AEW and the rest. I can observe that. I can call it out for not being wrestling and kind of stinky and, always getting in the way of enjoying a wrestling match. But I cannot sit here and tell you that it's not working. WWE fans are eating this shit up, and it's great business for them. I still think it's bad, but it's working. So there's good nonetheless for the company. I try to be passionate about what's objective, and I try to be fair. I try to be passionate for what's subjective and fair, passionate for what's subjective and fair for what's objective, if that makes sense. I try. That's what I always do my best at. Look, CM Punk's another good example, right? If you were listening to the Mr. Warren Hayes show over like a couple of months ago when we were all wondering when he was coming back and so on and so forth, I try to be as fair as possible, but I have my very strong feelings about CM Punk and how he conducts himself and how he conducts business and how his storied history will always have me keeping him at arm's length. But I will give him the props that he deserves. I will ask questions. I will raise concerns. But if he's able to quash those concerns, I'll be like, good. Like right now, this is one that I've been on for a while. I've been asking. I've been wondering. Is he that big of a draw? Is he bringing people back? I talked about it on the Collision review this week. Like, well, no, the Canadian shows, first of all, they didn't draw as bad as everyone thought they did. But I was being told, just wait till he hits the United States. And then once the United States, hit the ground running and then the arenas are going to fill out. Well, he did good business at the Prudential Center, but it didn't blow my mind. He didn't sell, he didn't overly, like he's above the median and it's good. But again, it's like nothing that's blowing my mind. But then, turns out Collision this week, the ratings, 618,000 viewers on average, a 0.18 in the 1849. And that was a nothing burger show. That was a show that had really nothing, no big matches, nothing. The main event wasn't even announced. But CM Punk was there, drew a bigger rating than last week. It's their second biggest rating since they started. So I'm like, and the ratings, look, again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds for the ratings. I still feel like we need more data before we actually, start comparing and going, okay, well, this is a good number for Rampage. This is a good number for Collision. This is a bad one. I think we still need a little more data. But, just in a vacuum and in about itself, this Saturday show, which again was a nothing show, drew the second biggest viewership in the short history of the show. I think that's a big deal. And what quarter hours drew? Old punkers. Those were the best quarter hours of the show. The opening quarter hour and the last two for the main event. So I'm sitting, I've been asking the questions. Can he still? Well, right now, I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, he still got it. He's still working. And that's what I think. I mean, look, it's up to you all to decide who to follow, who to listen to, and I will never, outside of some really egregious things, wrestle votes, I will never tell you who you should and should not follow. That is entirely up to you. And I am just humbled that you decide to add me into your rotation, into your knowledge base of pro wrestling. That means a lot to me. So, I'm not going to go around and tell you who you should and should not, but I hope that you take the time to sort of think of, when you see commentary, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's another podcast, whether it's an article, is it treating a subject fairly? Is it bringing another point of view? And is it treating it in a way that it seems fair, but in reality, it's someone that's just expressing their dislike of something, which is the impetus of something like the BCC and the Elite didn't work. Anyone who says that, they themselves didn't like the feud. Because objectively speaking, you cannot say it was not working. But if those people were to tell me the feud was successful, but I was fed up with it, I'd have much more respect for that. Much more respect for that. As opposed to it was on fumes. No one cared. Nah, there's data to back that up. There's absolute data to back that up. I might think Dominic Mysterio is the greatest blight on WWE television right now. And yet he pops on NXT and he pops numbers. What do you want from me? A couple of other little news items. Again, like a bit of a slow week. Not a slow week. Just like a lot of news that a lot of things happening that I didn't think were all as interesting as a lot of people were letting on. But look, here's something that's interesting. ROH signed his new contract with All Elite Wrestling. I was shocked. Shocked, I tells you. And I'm not even kidding. I was like, oh, okay, good for him. Any questions? I'm reading this article off of the Wrestling Figure 4 Online Observer. Any questions about ROH's immediate future have now been answered. In a tweet on Monday, ROH revealed that he's re-signed with All Elite Wrestling. ROH posted a video of him and Tony Khan putting pen to paper on the new deal. This is what the tweet reads. I started a new chapter in my personal and professional career. Personal because he's a new father. Again, congratulations to him. People doubted I could make it. Today, I want to say I'm 100% AEW. Thank you, Tony Khan. Thank you, fans. Thank you, my LFI brothers. We can now rule the wrestling world. And then a bunch of hashtags. I'm AEW Perros, ROH declared. Numero uno, Khan said. Oh, Tony is so great. He is the most memeable pro wrestling official suit. He's fantastic. No, but listen, I'm happy. Look at this is I will continue to have multiple reservations in regards to ROH because he is a revival of a dying breed of carny. I'm just calling it as it is. He politics and finagles his way in and out of obligations and contracts. There is a history. You can go check it out. It's there. So when I heard, and WWE's looking after us, might be interested, and I'm like, all right. I mean, I would not have been surprised in the slightest that he's just like, I'm taking the bag, going to the Fed, gonna wrestle. My brother's there. I'll bring in my father. Who the fuck, whatever. And he does his thing. He doesn't want to do it. Why would he want to do AAA? AAA sucks. Why would he want to go back to do AAA? AAA stinks. AAA stinks. It is terrible. It is bad shit. You think NWA is bad? You watch a AAA show. That shit is bad. Anyway, I don't know why that got so triggered all of a sudden. But look, whatever happened, that's good. I'll tell you, like my pal Garrett Kidney said today in the Voices of Wrestling group chat. He said something I'm paraphrasing, but look at ROH being a good boy to both companies long enough for one of them to sign him. I'm legitimate. Look, I'm happy for the guy if he's getting a lot of money. If he's going to be happy, that's fine. That's fine. But I promise you, just be careful because he was pulling shit with AAA not that long ago. And I know people were going, ha, you get him, ROH. But wait till he does it to the promotion that you like. Just hang on. This is not like he burned a lot of bridges with a lot of Ring of Honor fans too. I'm telling, look, that's all I'm saying. But I'm happy for him, and overall, I much more enjoy having ROH around in AEW. I think look, we all know what would happen in WWE. That's fine. I think I much rather have him on my television in AEW. Quite honestly, regardless of what I think of him, and I think the LFI stuff in AEW is going to get over. I think Andrade is over. I wouldn't be surprised if ROH shows up on Saturday at Collision for the fucking ladder match. A ladder match. Just when you think you can go a week without a ladder match. At least there wasn't a ladder match at Ring of Honor. But that's good news. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. In the chat, I'm sorry. And in the chat, to the question where I was like, well, we know what would be happening to Rush if he went to WWE. And the chat answers, he'd be losing to Dom. And it's funny because it's true. That Rush kid comes in, he's got to pay his dues. He's got to work the Mysterio. Oh, I'm working Ray. No. No, not the good Mysterio. Oh. And here's something that we hadn't talked about. I'm going to take a sip of water here if you don't mind. It's a bit old news, but it came back into the news. And I hadn't had a chance to talk about it, but Brian Pillman Jr., his contract, he was released from his contract, or it expired, I believe. I think that's more the terminology. Anyway, his contract's not being renewed. How about that? That's a wide net. I'll cover everything. That's it. He's gone from AEW. And I can't say I'm surprised. I just haven't had a chance to talk about it. But now, there's news that came up, and I'm like, okay, now there's something that that we can sink our teeth into a little more. It was said that like 24 hours after the end of his AEW contract, he was at the Performance Center training in Orlando, Florida, the WWE Performance Center, just in case to be specific. And then a couple of days ago, he tweeted that there was a quote unquote huge opportunity coming his way. The Wrestling Observer newsletter noted last week that Pillman Jr. had been spotted at the Performance Center, but would likely not be signed until after the Endeavor merger is complete. The big overarching theory right now is that WWE is not hiring anyone new, any big contracts at the very least, until they finalize the merger, which fiscally, I guess, makes sense. You don't want to add more. You don't want to add more onto your payroll and expenses as you're going in to merge with a company. So, it makes sense. And, a lot of people have been using that as a crutch as to what, well, this is why WWE couldn't sign Jay White. They wanted to, but they couldn't. This is why they didn't sign Rush. They wanted to, but they couldn't. Oh, they signed Dragon Lee. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, here's, this rumor about the hiring freeze, right? I'll tell you one thing. I've followed WWE long enough to let me tell you something, pal. If they wanted to hire someone really bad, they would have figured out a way to do it. I'll just leave it at that. If they wanted to hire someone, they would have found a way to do it. And y'all thinking about, well, there would have been repercussions. Okay, repercussions. Just like when Vince McMahon was supposed, when he came back, should have been repercussions, huh? Should have been repercussions for all those women in those NDAs, huh? All those allegations, huh? All of the WWE is a champion, undisputed universal champion at avoiding repercussions / accountability. That's actually the part and parcel of the business. Wrestling is secondary. Avoiding the consequences to their actions. Now those are fucking pros. We'll see what they do with Cord Bauer, but anyway, that's another thing. But coming back to Pillman, So basically, the rumor going around is that Pillman's cannot officially be hired yet because of this alleged hiring freeze. Which again, it makes sense. I understand why there would be. I was on a podcast this weekend, this Sunday, the Botched Shots and Chair Shots. Shout out Will Gray and Allison and the whole crew. It was a thrill to be there, and we touched a little bit on Brian Pillman, and I'll sort of echo my sentiments here. You want to know how far you can go simply by coasting on your father's name? I think Brian Pillman is a good example of that. Now, he's not. Look, I'm on record. I've never been a fan. I've never been I think he's a very mid pro wrestler. I think he's mid as far as his skill goes. I think he's mid when it comes to his promos. Mid in his look. Wrestlers have told me things. Apparently he's, not a specifically endearing individual. Let's put it that way. But he's mid overall. And look, there is a litany of second generation pro wrestlers who just didn't have it, right? We are living through a few these days. But there's more than enough history. David Flair, Greg Gagne, we can go back years, tons of people. I'm sure the chat is going to flood the chat with examples of terrible second generation wrestlers because they are out there. They've poisoned the business in whichever way, shape, or form they did at the time. And I wouldn't even go as far as to say that Brian Pillman is a bad pro wrestler. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's terrible at it. I think he's very mid. Which brings me to my point, : take any wrestler with the exact same attributes as Brian Pillman Jr. and call him, I don't know, Fred Flashstone. And Fred Flashstone is on nobody's radar. He does not come up in contract talks. He is not featured in documentaries. No one talks about the guy. And he probably just peters out, goes into a quiet retirement, just disappears. Pillman coasts off of the success of his father. He is lucky that so many of the old heads and traditionalists in the business cared about his father so much that they were like, yeah, we got to give this kid a chance. Oh, this is Brian. This is Pillman's kid. This is Pillman's kid. Oh, shit. Because Brian touched so many people, his dad, Brian Sr., touched so many people and was such an influence that they want to make good. They want to make sure that his kid is taken care of, which is fair. Nepotism in wrestling is not, it's not something that's never happened. Greg Gagne, again, there we go. It's like the cycle continues. It's just how it goes. But I am fascinated at this. And frankly, there is a spot for him in WWE. I think WWE is going to be a perfect environment for him because he does not need to push his in-ring game. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be fine. But where he's going, so he's got the basics to make it in WWE. Because it's not about the work rate in WWE. It never will be, and don't kid yourselves. Where he's going to struggle is on the stick, and that matters. That fucking matters. We're seeing it right now in WWE. There's a guy who is a magician on the mic. He's getting the crowd up on their feet. He's got a catchphrase that people can sing along to. He's got the yeah stuff that people respond to. They go bonkers for him. And the company's like, yeah, no, we can't push this guy. He might have an attitude. I feel bad for LA Knight, Eli Drake. I really do. I feel bad for him because this is a guy that for years, seeing him in TNA Impact and whatever it was called, I was like, what is this guy doing here? He is made for WWE. And an average stock pro wrestler, charismatic, big build, big guy, knows how, and fantastic on the microphone. What is he even doing there? What is he even doing why is he in the NWA? Why hasn't WWE picked this guy up yet? They pick him up. They're like, we didn't want to push him. We're not sure we want to push him. Isn't that and people are angry about this. People are fascinated about this. People are angry. I'm like, the cycle continues. Don't get yourself over unless the company wants you to get over. Why is this shocking anyone? Why do people still watch this product if this is going to make them angry? Because it happens all the time. People get themselves over and then they try to squish them. They try to squash them out. Yeah, the Zack Ryder comparisons are apt. Bryan Danielson, Becky Lynch. These are all apt comparisons on the, in regards to Daniel Bryan, they eventually had to push him because the audience was turning against the company. And we all know how that went. And then Becky Lynch, well, they tried their damnedest to not let us cheer for her. But eventually they had to switch the message with the rest of. If they had truly had faith in Becky Lynch as a top tier superstar for the company, the WrestleMania main event would have been her versus Ronda. It would have been a 3-way. Don't kid yourselves. Charlotte was always the golden ticket. Charlotte was always the John Cena of the women's division or the Roman Reigns. You are going to like this person whether you like it or not. But it's not Eli Drake. It's not LA Knight. It can't be LA Knight because he's not part of the plan. So they're not going to push him. And we've seen this before. And they will probably push him once he starts cooling off. Then they'll be like, well, it's time to pull the trigger on this LA Knight wave. And people will be like, no. Now it's sort of stale, kind of old. Because now this is the company that tells long-term stories. They're not just going to jump into something. They're not going to jump into the shallow side of the pool without checking first, right? They're not going to jump in head first. What are we doing here? You think we're some kind of little mark company that just, does things because the audience has positive reactions for? We're going to tell them what they're going to like, and they're going to like it, whether they like it or not. But they are going to end up liking it because they don't know any better. That's the attitude. And it's been that attitude for years. Again, I don't know what's surprising anyone because they didn't do it with Sammy either. Like how is this shocking and surprising to anyone? And now they're leaking that, he might have attitude problems. Why do you think that news is being leaked? WWE that doesn't leak any news. That just has PR talking to people, but doesn't leak any news. It's right now the news, WWE's leaks have been squeezed up. It's squeezed up tight like a sphincter, like a brand new, fresh out of the box sphincter. That's how tight it is. Nothing's leaking. Nothing's coming out. And then suddenly, oh, well, LA Knight has a bit of an attitude problem. Why do you think this is coming out? Character assassination. It's just like when people leave the company. Oh, they were difficult to work with, right? Remember that? When they were talking about Keith Lee when he left? He was difficult to work with. Oh, yeah. Stay wise, folks. They know what they're doing here. These are people who play the media like puppets. They understand how this goes. If they're out there saying that LA Knight has an attitude problem, I'm not saying that he doesn't, but I'm saying that the fact that it's being leaked is significant. That is meaningful. That's because they want the fan base to sort of go, psh. They want the fan base to go, oh, well, how can I support someone who is a bit of a jerk? I don't want to support jerks. I want to support people for whom, there's never anything bad that's said about them, like Roman Reigns. When's the last time you heard a bad report about Roman Reigns? Or Bronson Reed? Or Braun Strongman? Anyway, okay. Let's go ahead with a quick G1 wrap-up, recap of where we are right now. In the illustrious greatest tournament in pro wrestling every year, of which I am doing daily recaps. I keep hammering this home, but I'm putting in a lot of work. No, it's fun work, but it's really cool. Hey, look, if you want to keep up on the day to day, you want to make sure that you're not missing a single thing. This is what you do. You follow the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel or on your podcast app, and you get your G1 recaps every day. But as it stands right now, we have hit the halfway mark in regards to block action. But yeah, we have moving forward. We're going to be in the last few days of the blocks moving forward. So as it stands right now, Block A and B have one night of competition ahead of C and D. The next the next night of action for C and D is tomorrow on the 26th. But as it stands right now, so maybe as you're listening to this right now, it's already been over. I mean, maybe none of this matters. Sanada is leading Block A, world champion Sanada with 8 points, followed by Kaito Kiyomiya at 5 points. Chase Owens, Gabriel Kidd, and Shota Umino all have 4 points. Yota Tsuji is at 3. Ren Narita and Hikuleo rounding out the bottom at 2. Now, this is the block that contains all of the young guys and the Reiwa Three Musketeers. I called it when I did my prediction show. This was going to be the most interesting block, and it really is, because right now, the Three Musketeers, the young guys, they're all pulling draws on each other. And even Kaito Kiyomiya pulled a draw on Shota Umino, which is significant. That should be taken as an important statement in regards to how the company views Shota Umino. If they're going to have the guest from Noah come in and fight one of their rookies. Kaito's a young guy too, like Shota, but Kaito is a former GHC world champion. So to have this happen, that should show how significant this was for New Japan to want to protect Shota Umino. They didn't want him to lose to it. I mean, the politicking must have been spectacular, but it's still nonetheless the result that happens is that Shota Umino drew with Kaito Kiyomiya. It wasn't very decisive. That's a significant piece of business right there. But the significant piece of business that Sanada is running through the block right now, and the Reiwa Musketeers are all drawing against each other, which is also very significant. So as we're getting closer, so now there's only 3 nights of block action left for them. So as we're getting through it, it'll be interesting to see how these points are going to be separated, because as you may recall, it's not necessarily a question of just winning the block this year. There are playoffs. So the top two winners of the block move on. So I think at this point, it's pretty clear that Sanada is going to move on, but we'll see what happens with the rest of the block, where there's still a lot of possibilities that are still open, except for Hikuleo, who I have soft eliminated, not an official elimination, but I've sort of booted him out of competition. I don't think he's going to be a factor moving forward. But they, we'll see in a couple of days. There's, Hikuleo is going to have another match at the Ota City Gym in Tokyo, and he will be fighting on night 9 Yota Tsuji, which we should all expect Yota Tsuji to win. If Tsuji wins, that's the end of Hikuleo's G1 aspirations. But we'll see what happens. Block B is led by Kazuchika Okada over there at 8 points. Will Ospreay nipping at his heels for 6 points. Taichi, Yoshihashi, and Kenta all at 4 points. El Fantasmo, Tangaloa, Great Okan all have 2 points at the bottom. Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada will also be fighting at the Ota City Gym this week. This will be a significant fight, because if Will Ospreay wins, not only will he tie Kazuchika Okada, but that will also mean that he will hold the tiebreaker over him as well. So that is going to be very, very, very. That's going to be a match to keep your eyes on and circle. Make sure you got that one circled, because you want it to be circled, right? Isn't it happening at the? That's what's happening. Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay as they leave Tokyo. That's going to be the match that they leave us with. C block, the ass kicker block right now. As I said, they're a night behind everyone. Dave Finlay is up at the top at 6 points, followed by Evil, Eddie Kingston, and Tama Tonga at 4 points. Mikey Nichols, Aaron Hanari, and Shingo Takagi all have 2 points. And Tomohiro Ishii rounds up the bottom at 0. I still continue to expect David Finlay to run away with the top of the block here. Eddie's having a fine tournament so far. His big match, the match that everyone is looking forward to and excited about, is his upcoming match against Tomohiro Ishii. That's happening tomorrow. And in my estimation, that will probably be the best match of Kingston's G1. I would assume that will probably be a very violent, brutal match, and Eddie is going to love every minute of it. To note here, Mikey Nichols, despite having 2 points, has been a revelation in this tournament. He's been working a lot harder, tough, striking, snug, rough, rugged than I expected. His matches have been very good so far. Have all had some great stuff about it. So, if I'm not mistaken, his match tomorrow is against Shingo. That is correct, and I'm really excited for it. 2 months ago, I'd be like, but after what I saw from Nichols, I'm excited to see what he's going to do here. Hey, there's people popping in. Joseph With It, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, is here. Nice to see you. On top of that, Fretzelmania is here as well. Nice to see you too. Also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. And Will Gray, who we plugged a little earlier from the Botched Shots and Chair Shots podcast, which I was on just a couple of days ago on Sunday. Nice to see you, Will. Good to have you with us. Continuing this G1 talk. And Block D, Zack Sabre Jr. and Jeff Cobb are at the tippity top right now, both at 6 points. Hiroki Goto and Tetsuya Naito have 4 points apiece. Shane Haste and Hiroshi Tanahashi have 2 points, with Toru Yano and Alex Coughlin rounding up the bottom at 0. So again, Zack Sabre Jr. and Jeff Cobb are going to be main eventing it seems like the Korakuen Hall show tomorrow. And again, that's a significant match. You've got the block leaders tied at 6. This is a tiebreaker moment. One guy takes one guy takes the lead over the other and the other guy can never catch up with him unless he wins all his matches, of course. But, if they stay tied the entire way, Cobb and Zack Sabre Jr., whoever wins tomorrow will have the upper hand on the other guy. That's just how it goes. So good. And it should be a fun match on top of that. Block leaders, a lot of stakes in that one. So those are the standings so far. It's been a very good G1 so far. And I mean, look, see, in the chat we're saying, I'm expecting a draw. This is one of the things that I think has been a story of this tournament. They brought down the time limit from 30 minutes to 20. And they've been leaning into this story that the matches are shorter and a lot of the guys are working draws much more than in previous installments of the G1 because the matches are shorter, because the times are shorter. And they even worked into that drama with the Sanada Kaito Kiyomiya match that happened earlier today, where it didn't go to a draw, but it went to 2 seconds. The match ended at 19 minutes 58. So they're leaning into the fact that people are now expecting draws. So that's fantastic. That's something that's really that I enjoy a great deal. So as far as the tournament is going right now, there's really 2 nights overall, I say, that are completely missable. There's one night 6 particularly, that I thought stunk. I thought it was a bad night of pro wrestling. Whereas everything else, there's something on every night. Night 5, if there's something that you wanted to sink your teeth in and you're like, look, give me a taste of this G1. I think there's 2 nights that you can do this one. Night 1 was a very good way to kick off the G1. Plus, it's free. It's available for free on New Japan World. So don't even need to sign up. Well, you have to sign up, but you don't even need to give them a dime, and you can give that a shot. And night 5 of the G1 was just spectacular. Now, that was a great night of pro wrestling, just from top to bottom. Everything was fantastic on that show. So overall this year, there's been some great stuff. There's been some surprising performances. I think Henare, formerly known as Aaron Henare, formerly known as Henare. He's back to calling himself just Henare. He's been having a great G1. We talked about Yoshihashi having a great G1. Kaito Kiyomiya is shining throughout all of this. I think, out of the 3 Musketeers right now, Shota Umino and Yota Tsuji are clearly having the better tournaments as well. It's been good stuff. It's really been good stuff, and there's been a lot of stories, lots of drama being built. When you start understanding the booking patterns a little more of New Japan, then you start seeing things like, are we going this way? Are we going that way? Taichi as well is another guy who's been having a good one. So it's really hard to go wrong. If you really want to follow and you want to make sure that that you're on top of things, I highly suggest that you listen to my G1 recaps every day. I'm going to do another one tomorrow. But in the meantime, I can leave you off with this thought, maybe a few of my top matches so far in order. How about my top 5? I'll give you my top 5 G1 matches so far in reverse order. Number 5, I would say Shota Umino versus Kaito Kiyomiya from July 21st, which would be, I'm just going to get the nights in order here. July 21st was night 5. Well, there you go. The excellent night 5 rearing its beautiful, loving face. Number 4, Sanada versus Kaito Kiyomiya. Again, Kiyomiya in the mix here. That was from today, July 25. So therefore, night 7. I thought that was an astounding piece of business. Great main event. Super dramatic. Taichi versus Will Ospreay from July 15. Coming in at number 3, July 15 being night 1. That was just a fantastic way to kick off to give us a good kickoff. Shingo Takagi versus Hinare on July 19. July 19 being night 4. What a brutal night. Brutal night. Just an absolute fight between those two guys. And Kazuchika Okada versus Taichi on July 21st, which is my match of the tournament so far at the very top. July 21st, night 5. You can't go wrong with night 5. Just some great stuff so far. So check it out. Check out the free matches on New Japan World. Check out my G1 recaps. And it's a good time to want to watch some great pro wrestling. The G1's doing it this year, baby. It's keeping us all on our toes. And we're going to wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. How about that? That was fantastic. What a good show. I had a lot of fun tonight. And I hope you all did too. We had a lot of fun on the stream as well. And we had a lot of fun on the stream as well tonight. And I hope you found a way to join the stream. And if you can't join the stream, we record live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. On youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So you can come in and just be a part of the festivities. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't end up on the podcast recording that happens between us, which is a fantastic time. So there you go. That'll be fantastic. I will be back, like I said, tomorrow with the G1 recap. I will be back on Thursday with my Dynamite review and Collision review on Sunday. That's what's coming up. Amidst it all, amidst the continuations of the G1. But thank you very much for being here. Leave a like, a subscription on YouTube, a follow, a review, a rating on your podcast applications. But because those things are very much appreciated. I will be back very soon. So in the meantime, hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.